Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host, Maqbool, with you at BTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is with reference to the Prime Minister's two-day official visit in Belarus on the invitation of the President. And of course, this is something that has been an ongoing effort between the two countries. He's, of course, accompanied by a high-level delegation and will be meeting, of course, his counterparts in the government in Belarus and looking forward to discussions on various fronts, particularly in terms of trade and investment and regional cooperation. Which of course the two countries are moving forward with. And so what really will be the result of this particular visit, with leadership coming in from London as well and joining the Prime Minister, and of course the kind of developments that we will be seeing in terms of the path to economic recovery, and then of course in the ways that we're looking forward for increased engagement with countries around the world. So we're going to be taking a look at what that means for Pakistan and how significant this visit will be in terms of trade and investment ties in particular, and overall bilateral cooperation. In our next segment, we'll also be taking a look at Pakistan's policy with regards to the deportation of illegal foreign elements in the country. And this is, of course, something that has also included illegal foreign Afghan nationals, which have been announced earlier as well, that the decisions and steps to deport them back to their country is something that the government has been talking about and, of course, announcing on various occasions, and has been, of course, carrying out for a while now, with the previous deadline of 31st of March expiring, and then of course citizens in different parts of the country who do not have the documents and the relevant details are being asked to leave the country. And this is of course something that has most recently happened in Punjab and Sindh. And while there are many discussions around what are the possibilities that exist, we saw the Minister of State for Interior, Mr. Talal Chaudhry, speaking about how there is going to be no other deadline, and that there is not going to be any other scenario in which this illegal Afghan nationals and any other foreign nationals are going to be allowed to stay within the country without the proper documentation. So we're going to be taking a look at this particular policy over the past couple of months and how we have seen it being carried out, and what are the responses to it both nationally and internationally. That's going to be our focus in the debate today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by our guest for our first segment, Mr. Umer Karim, who's a research fellow at the University of Birmingham, and we've also been joined by Dr. Vaqar, Ahmed, who's a senior economist, so we're going to be taking a look at the opinions of all our guests with regards to this. Now I'll start with you, Dr. Vaqar, with what we are seeing, particularly in terms of these engagements that have existed over the past couple of months, most recently, and now we've seen this visit taking place of a high-power delegation chaired by the Prime Minister, of course, to Belarus. What sort of expectations can we have, and how do you look at the partnership between these two countries, particularly in terms of trade and investment ties, and how this can help support the economy?
Thank you very much for having me. I think it's an important step after the joint economic commission meeting between both countries. There have already been two meetings, and there have been some B2B meetings as well between the chambers of commerce on both sides. Now, this visit is particularly important because, contrary to the last visit, which had actually identified the sectors between the two countries where trade opportunities and investment opportunities lie, this visit actually gives the opportunity to the Prime Minister and his team to negotiate if Pakistani firms can have forward and backward linkages, so that they can base their branches, they can base their outsourcing platforms in Belarus, and then service the demand in Central Asia, Europe, and beyond.
Right. With reference to when we take a look at the particular areas in which these regional cooperation can exist, while of course Pakistan is looking to expand this, in what sort of particular sectors can we hope to look at and achieve in terms of expanding our relationship within the region?
Yes. So I think we should not forget that we first went to Belarus when our manufacturing industries that cater to agricultural technology, agricultural machinery, was on the downhill. So we were in deficit of producing tractors, threshers, millers, and of course there used to be a domestic industry, but given that productivity was going down in Pakistan, so we were looking for a partner who was well advanced in agricultural machinery. And that was our origin of dialogue with Belarus. And Belarus, of course, has a history of over 7 decades of producing high quality agricultural machinery technology. Now, of course, they are being branded, their machinery, agricultural inputs are being branded as environmental friendly as well. So, and given that Pakistani farmers, if they want to export, they will have to inform their importers that they are environmentally compliant. So that's the kind of equipment that Belarus specializes in. Then we are also hearing that in case of automotive and auto parts, of course, Belarus is greater and better in the precision leather. So that is also on the cards. Then, of course, alloys and iron and steel is the other sector in which discussions are going on. So one is hopeful that the number of sectors would gradually expand as government visit is followed by business-to-business meetings.
Right, and that's very essential. But Dr. Vaqar, I also want your take in terms of how we're incentivizing when we talk about bringing investment in, both when we talk about G2G or B2B engagements with different countries. While, of course, we are engaged with the IMF and there are so many decisions that we're taking at home in terms of improving the economy, we are, of course, looking forward to investment and projects with other countries, but how are we ensuring that it's a win-win situation for both, and what are we able to offer that is attractive for these investments?
I think what we have done in recent is really streamlining of the regulatory regime for the foreign investors, and SIF has been on the forefront. If you go on their website, many of those regulatory approvals used to take ages for investment to come in. They are now done in a couple of hours. So I think it's a huge break away from the past. This, we have for foreign investment exchange rate now. You have seen this very vocally mineral summit held in Islamabad as well. And then, of course, you have the special economic zones in, of course, the incentive locked for 10 years, and the duration continues to exist. To sort of take away that exemption of on that.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Vaqar, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Mr. Umer, I'll come to you with reference to your perspective and your take on what it means when we take a look at our relationship with Belarus in particular, and for us to be looking more in terms of regional countries and cooperation that exist, especially now that there is a lot of discussions around what's going on in terms of change in policies by the US administration as well, and how a lot of other countries are also looking either inwards or around them. Is that also something that Pakistan needs to be cognizant of?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And I guess that this visit is quite important, and it's always good for us to um, enhance the range of our trade partners, economic partners. And considering the status of Belarus, like in most of its trade and most of its economic engagement is within the former Soviet bloc. On its western end is the European continent, but because of political situation, especially after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but also because of politics within Belarus, there has been some sort of an impediment for Belarus to engage with European nations. So this is why countries like Pakistan, where such engagement can happen, which also need partners where manufacturing industry is quite advanced. And since, as Dr. Vaqar was saying, we need such machinery, such technology, because our own sectors are not as advanced or as well developed. And because of this unique, you can say, intersection of political conditionalities and industrial opportunities, I think enhancing and further developing ties with countries like Belarus is a really good step and something which could have positive effects for multiple sectors within Pakistan, not only just agriculture sector, but also as we see Belarusians, are they have been known for production of heavy automotives. So in case if we want to further expand in terms of logistics within Pakistan, we will need such machinery, and Belarus can be an ideal country because, of course, there is Russia as well, but then uh, Russian markets are open for many other countries, while Belarus, being a neighbor of Russia, is often eclipsed, you can say, in this regard. And it's very interesting that this relationship, I understand, has some personal goodwill as well between the leaderships of the two countries. So all of this adds up uh, positively for Pakistan's economy and Pakistan's enhancing Pakistan's economic growth, especially also agriculture, because we see now that we need to move beyond the traditional agriculture technologies, and we need to import better equipment. And I guess if Belarus is interested, then that's a very good partnership. And also, our export markets can add a new customer, especially with regards to textiles and other industries.
Right. And Faisal, I want your perspective on this too, because we've seen that we've spoken about the ways in which we're looking at investing more in our sectors, and of course, helping the private partnership happen within the country, and then, of course, in terms of what we're looking outside of the country as well. And in particular, when we talk about the ways in which we can engage with Belarus, I want your perspective on how does that link with the kind of policies and procedures and infrastructure and governance that we keep on mentioning at home. How does that link with what we're trying to achieve outside of the country?
Yes, and obviously, when we talk about Pakistan trying to fix its economy and further enhancing its economy, of course, we know that Pakistan, especially SIFC, is putting up an excellent work in that context to attract foreign direct investment and attracting the other countries to invest in Pakistan as well, especially in the agriculture sector. When it comes to minerals exploration, of course, they want other countries to invest in these sectors as well. When it comes to country like Belarus, of course, country like Belarus has always been cooperating with Pakistan in terms of enhancing its capabilities related to the agriculture sector. Of course, we remember the very first tractors which we used to receive, they were from Belarus itself. And when we talk about the other equipments related to agriculture, of course, Belarus has always extended helping hand to Pakistan in terms of, both of the countries, they had a very good cooperation in terms of enhancing Pakistan's agriculture capacity. And now when Pakistan is, of course, heading towards a new era for agriculture, in which we want to enhance, not only, improve our crops, but of course the land which is less useful, of course we want to make it useful as well. And now, of course, countries like Belarus and the Western countries, they are equipped with the latest technologies related to how to cultivate the even the barren lands as well. So in that context, of course, Pakistan would have a lot to learn from a country like Belarus, and of course Belarus would be happily extending its cooperation to Pakistan. And when it comes to mineral side, of course, we know that Pakistan is seriously heading towards an era about our minerals, in which, of course, we want to drag our economy towards a $1 trillion economy. As day before yesterday, Prime Minister of Pakistan, he has rightly pointed out and highlighted it, that minerals is the way forward for Pakistan. And of course, when it comes to countries like Belarus, and if Pakistan wants to have or to achieve the latest machineries of the mineral exploration as well, that could be a huge step forward related to that. And another aspect which I wanted to highlight here, Sana, that is related to the medicine field. Even in the medicine field, Belarus is pivotal, because Belarus has excelled in the field of the medicine, and that too would be a great step forward for both of the countries, especially the businessmen who from the private sector of Pakistan that are seeking sort of collaborations with in the field of medicine with the businessmen from Belarus. Of course, it would be an opportunity for them as well. And when it comes to further expanding Pakistan's trade, I'm pretty much sure that we will be hearing very soon that both of the countries, they have pledged to, of course, increase bilateral trade between Pakistan and Belarus, and I think that would be a way forward, especially in this current situation in which we know that with the tariffs that are being introduced by President Trump. After that, of course, Pakistan has to look for the newer markets as well, and this is going to be one of the countries where Pakistan would be focusing on for the future. And furthermore, of course, when it comes to Belarus as a country, we know very recently President of Belarus, he visited Pakistan, and the pledges were made at that time as well. And now too, of course, these pledges, few of the pledges which were made previously, they would be liquidated, and now further pledges would be made between both of the countries. And future is to further enhancing the bilateral cooperation, even if it is side related to agriculture sector or mineral sector. Then furthermore, of course, we already know that both of the countries, to some extent, they have defense cooperation as well in terms of defense equipments, and that too can be further explored and, of course, enhanced between both of the countries.
Right, absolutely. And Farrukh, I want your take on that as well, and especially with regards to large scale and long term programs that we have with different countries, and how do we ensure how to go about it, because we've just last year, I believe, signed the roadmap for comprehensive cooperation, which is a 3-year cooperation with Belarus. But I want your take on what that means for us at home in terms of what we've seen in the past happen to large scale projects, to agreements, to policy decisions over a span of years. Is that something that we're ensuring in terms of its consistency, in terms of the plan of action that can be ensured when we talk about these projects?
Right, Sana. Thank you very much for the question. First of all, regarding this visit, it is very important and always heartening to see countries actually building up their relationship, improving their relationship. And just to remind everybody who has been reading my articles for past 2 or 3 decades, my emphasis on reaching out to the former Soviet bloc, or the countries that were that are actually part of the Russian sphere of influence, has actually started almost within years of the end of Cold War. And I thought that it was a great opportunity. We can improve relations with these countries. So it is really heartening. But we also seem to have the worst luck possible, because every time we get comfortable with any world order, that starts changing. And what has happened, Sana, is that we have actually reached out to to Belarus, and Belarus has also reached out to us. But because it is too close to Russia, that has caused 2 problems. One, because of Ukraine war, there have been sanctions on the country, right? On the other side, there is another issue, that while we could have actually found a way to actually move across that and find a way, then there is this transition in America, the country that was actually leading the charge on the issue of Ukraine. Now, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, his worldview is one. On the other side, the current bureaucracy still stands, and their outlook is different. So whichever way you go, you end up actually alienating somebody, right? So at that time, of course, reaching out is courageous, but it is also important, because Pakistan has been going through a lot, and it felt for quite some time that Pakistan was being left for the dead. People kept on thinking that this country has no future, and of course our eastern neighbors had also a lot to contribute to that impression. But whosoever comes to us, we have to actually make it clear to the world We don't have choices because we have to work with whosoever is going to work with us. Belarus is a very important country. Remember, there's something very interesting that we seem to miss. There are, almost 200 countries in the world, but because political science, because of IR, because of the news medium and politics, everything revolves around to one dozen countries. Because of that, a lot of emphasis is removed from the importance of every individual country. Belarus is, as has been pointed out, very important nation. Its economy is in good shape, and then the leadership is very clear in which direction the country has to go. So, because this relationship has developed between the two nations, we can build on that, and of course, that means improving our economy. Warfare, military equipment, industrial equipment, all these things are secondary. At this moment, the first thing that is needed is how can there be such, help from both sides to each other that the economy keeps on improving.
Right. Mr. Umer, I want your perspective on this as well. Given, of course, the ways in which we've seen the finance ministry and the government make a lot of efforts with the IMF, we're, of course, moving forward with the program. And there are so many aspects that we need to be aware of when we talk about the conditionalities or what our plan of action is. And I want your take on, while we talk about these foreign direct investments and while we do a lot of actions and short-term measures that are needed now, do you think that there is a long-term direction or planning or data collection or need assessment done in terms of the ways that we're engaging with what lies ahead as part of the IMF's program, and then what lies ahead in terms of what we're going to do about increasing FDI in the country, and not just signing MOUs and agreements today, but ensuring that we complete them, ensuring that we expand them, and then add to that the ways in which we're going to factor in all the risks and costs associated with the IMF, and of course other aspects that we need to be cognizant of.
Definitely, there is. This has been kind of the need within the policy making circles for now, I would say, at least more than a decade. And the country needs to, and its decision makers need to be very clear about the economic priorities and what sort of sectors they want to prioritize in terms of development, what sort of sectors they want to develop, what new sectors they want to develop, where are or which are the countries or regions where we are exporting most of our products, and additionally, more than products, our manpower as well. And then which are the countries or which are the specific zones from where we are importing them. So all this nexus of our foreign policy, our politics, and then our economic dependencies, they all factor out into this policy making. And I would say that based on this rationale, there was some discussion on an approach called geoeconomics. But again and again, we have seen repeatedly that such economic-based outlook foreign and adopting such a rationale within the foreign policy realm again gets compromised to geopolitical situations. Internationally, we sometimes events happen which have not been predicted or estimated as such. So all of this further complicates our state of affairs within the country. But then there are certain shortcomings of our own, because we used to have a steel mill in Pakistan. It has been long been dormant. So our own steel manufacturing has been really hampered because of such lacunas. And I guess in all of this, there needs some sort of stability with regards to economic decision making. And I think after the formation of SIFC, at least we had some sort of clarity with regards to, okay, how can we attract foreign investment? But still, there are a lot of,
Right.
say, bureaucratic, this streamlining such investment or procedures.
Right, absolutely. And while we of course understand the importance of trade and investment relationships, I also want your take on what it means to invest in the people of both the countries. And while we talk about the ways in which we can collaborate, there's also members of the delegation that are accompanying the Prime Minister, such as the Information Minister, for example, that of course can add to the ways that we can have cultural cooperation, people-to-people cooperation, educational activities together. So how much of that is also part of these engagements, and what can we really build on when we take a look at this
And
relationship?
Umar, building on this question, let me also ask you, because usually when you're traveling abroad, one thing that becomes very clear is our understanding, our people's understanding of other cultures is limited to a few countries. This is what I saw in Central Asia and these countries also. Who is responsible to educate Pakistan and inform Pakistan or Pakistanis about cultural diversity of Belarus, all these countries, and who can actually help us, build the kind of people-to-people relationship that Sana was talking about. Umar.
Yes, Umer, please go ahead.
Excellent set of questions. All right. I think these are two excellent questions. And I would add to this that whenever there is a wave or a new country which is open for Pakistanis, we see that every sort of every kind of people from our country travel to these countries, and then eventually, uh, so what Pitafi have mentioned is one part of the problem. There are many other problems as well. Some people are engaged in illegal activities. Some people are engaged in other such activities, which eventually creates a bad name for our country. And any new avenue or any new country which opens their borders or opens their arms for us, they eventually then block us. And I guess that the government needs to really seriously take up this issue. They can, I mean, the Department of the governmental Department of Communications, as well as Trade and Commerce, they could set up specific desks within the embassies of these countries where at least the people who are applying can be, I'm not saying they should be vetted, uh, maybe that is a bit too extreme, but at least our own authorities should keep an eye on who is actually going to these countries and what is the purpose of their visit, because we have seen this in happening in the Gulf, and sadly visa restrictions are now being applied to Pakistani citizens on Gulf. In Europe, it's already very problematic. And now within these Central Asian countries, as Pradhan Sahib said, they have different cultural makeup. And our people, unfortunately, are going there without being respectful. So I guess one basic thing which possibly can also be included in syllabus and curriculum, that we need to be respectful of other cultures and people's under relatively different understanding of lifestyle.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Umer Karim, for joining us and being a part of the
Thank you.
discussion today. With that, we conclude our first segment, and we're going to move on to our next one, which takes a look at Pakistan's decisions with regards to deportation of foreign nationals illegally residing in the country and not having the proper documentation. There has been a lot of discussion on whether or not there's going to be any extension in the deadline, which the Minister of State for Interior, Mr. Talal Chaudhry, has clarified that there will be none. And Faisal, I want your take on this because there's a lot of discussion around questioning this particular decision and then the operations, even though we can look back to as far as October last year when this decision was announced, with a lot of deadlines being given, and I believe the latest one being the 31st of March. And so it has been clarified once again that there's no extension. Why is there a talk of that when we've already had these announcements previously, and when the categories as to which individuals are actually being deported has also been clarified by the government, not targeting those who have the documents, not targeting those who are refugees, but only those who are residing illegally in the country?
Yes, and obviously when we talk about why now, of course, since few days there were hoax and fake news which was being spread intentionally, that there is a new law which is going to be implemented, in which there will be, of course, an extension to people, and there will be of course a new mechanism through which they will be dealing with it, and United Nations somehow UNHCR is playing its role, and all of that. That is entirely fake news, and that is why, of course, Talal Chaudhry Saab, he had to, of course, appear and give the clarification that there is nothing like that, and of course that date was the final date, and Pakistan is doing what is required to do, and all of the aliens that are from other nationals, including Afghanistan, of course, they would be treated in accordance to the law, in accordance to the Pakistan's policy. And yes, when it comes to people who are registered with the UNHCR, be they Afghans, be they any of the nationalities, of course, they will not be required to move, but people who haven't got any documentations and no reason to stay in Pakistan, of course, they will be the ones who would be sent to their relative countries. And of course, Afghan nationals, there is a mechanism which is still going on, and till last week, end of the last week, we had 1,600 of them who've been sent in, and then after a proper mechanism in which their fingers and their all the biodatas, they were taken from them, so that when they are trying to come back again, of course they can be figured out where they are. And when it comes to, of course, the overall Afghans who have been having their documentations done in Pakistan, and they are of course registered with UNHCR, and UNHCR gives them the proper paperwork to stay in Pakistan, as Pakistan has been taking care of Afghan nationals since almost 5 decades, since they were having war or war effects in their country. Of course, for the security purposes they have been staying here, but at the same time they were supposed to have paperwork. Whoever's got them, they are in Pakistan, but the ones who haven't got any, of course Pakistan is doing what is required to do and what any other country would do. Even the Western countries, they do it. Even now, of course, America, they have been sending Indian nationals back to their country, reason being they were illegally staying in America, and that is what the whole world does, including of course Pakistan would do the same thing. And when it comes to this particular date was the final date, and after that anyone who is being found in Pakistan with not a single paper to prove their existence in Pakistan, of course they will be sent back to their own countries.
Right, and Farrukh, I want your perspective on this too, given the fact that this is not the first time we're talking about this, and there has been a lot of such reassurances coming in from the government side in the past as well, and this distinction between the different categories. Why is there a need to re-emphasize this again and again? How is this being viewed both from certain elements within the country, and then more importantly internationally, in the ways that it's being understood as to what Pakistan is doing?
Right, Sana. I think that one thing that you have to appreciate and understand is that any government that rules a country, it is within its rights to actually make policy and then adjust that policy according to the circumstances, right? So if the government says that it is final deadline, then it is final deadline. If tomorrow it actually decides to change something, then also it will be within its rights. Now your question regarding these clarifications and the need, there are two reasons. One, on one side, because we have repeatedly mentioned the Indian clout and then Afghan Taliban's magical clout, who seem to now be setting the agenda or setting the narrative. Because of that, Pakistan is repeatedly, subjected to a lot of rumors and propaganda. Then there is the problem of useful idiots within our own country. People with bleeding hearts who will not have any sympathy for the people who are within their own sphere of influence. But when it comes to these kind of issues, they will create a lot of noise. So the government of Pakistan, because it is subjected to this kind of propaganda repeatedly, the government has to actually come forward and clarify. And I think that has been happening repeatedly. But when it comes to the UN, when it comes to international bodies and other countries, there are two or three things that you have to understand. One, this is, there was a time when UN was at the center stage of everything that was happening. Now, because there are changes in the US and also in Europe and many places, because of that, the agenda setting capacity of UN is compromised. So naturally, whenever there is talk about uprooting a population and sending, moving them, UN usually expresses its worries. But on the other side, when you look at what Afghan Taliban are doing, they don't seem to have any kind of a solution to offer. So I don't think that the UN itself is right now capable of providing a solution. This is one aspect, and you keep on looking at that. But of course, wherever Afghan Taliban's narrative carries, wherever India's narrative carries, or so many other detractors of Pakistan, their narrative carries, of course, this propaganda keeps on spreading, and we have to actually fight back.
Right. Faisal, with reference to actually taking a look at this in the larger perspective also, how does that also factor in with our relationship with Afghanistan and with the Afghan Taliban regime, and of course these people also who of course are part of this process? How are we taking a look at this overall dynamic, and whether or not that's the same way it's being looked at internationally as well, given the kind of trust deficit that exists, given the kind of expectations or demands that we've had from the Afghan Taliban regime that haven't been met?
Yes, Sana, when we talk about Afghan Taliban sitting in Kabul, of course Pakistan time and again has been telling them that this is the way forward, and of course Pakistan is facing terrorism which is originating from within Afghanistan, and it was expected from Afghan Taliban to of course counter that terrorism, that menace alongside Pakistan. But of course they are not doing what they are required to do. Of course they themselves had pledged in the Doha Accord that they will never let their land to be used against any of the neighboring countries for the terrorism purposes, and of course it is still taking place for Pakistan. And of course when it comes to from within Afghanistan, the origination of terrorism is taking place. But now when Pakistan was time and again asking Afghan Taliban to do their bit, they didn't do it. Then of course Pakistan has to pursue a policy in which they have to make sure that their own citizens are safe enough, because in majority of these terrorist attacks in Pakistan, of course facilitation was extended by the Afghan nationals who were of course aliens in Pakistan and who were in Pakistan, living in Pakistan without any paperwork. So when it comes to Pakistan doing it, it's a bit which was required to do. This was one of that, and of course Pakistan is doing it. Afghan Taliban, they were conveyed these messages through diplomatic channels as well. Through Pakistan kept on sending its special envoys to talk with the Afghan Taliban in Afghanistan, in Kabul. They didn't listen to it. Then when it comes to of course the local jirgas, as it's a Pashtun culture, of course the Pashtun jirga was taking place as well, and they kept on mentioning these things as well to Afghan Taliban, but they didn't listen. They thought that it would not be a sort of that step which Pakistan would be taking, but of course Pakistan has to take the steps forward. Like Pakistan is nibbing on the kind of trade that actually takes place between Pakistan, especially Pakistan is of course focusing on the kind of people who are involved in illegal trade. They are being nibbed, and at the same time people who are involved in facilitation of all of these terrorists, of course Pakistan is making sure that all of the reasons which actually make it easier for Afghan TTP that is sitting in Afghanistan to conduct its activities in Pakistan, they are of course culling all of them activities, all of them reasons in Pakistan, and this was one of the reasons, and that is why of course the aliens that are from Afghanistan, they are being sent back. And I think now Afghan Taliban would be taking it quite seriously. Previously they thought that of course Pakistan would come to terms with it, because majority of the people who are in Pakistan, they don't want to go back. Reason being, of course, it is more secure for them to live. It is more secure in terms of their economic security as well. That is why they kept on living in Pakistan for a long time, and Pakistan has been feeding these people in Pakistan. Of course they have been contributing in the Pakistan's economy as well, but when it comes to taxable economy, that is what Pakistan requires. And people who are not legal in Pakistan, of course they have been involved in trade activities that were carrying out in shape of smuggling into Pakistan. And I think all of these terrorism, the real terrorism and then the economic terrorism, both of them, they get nibbed through this policy of Pakistan. And I think now Taliban, Afghan Taliban, they need to come to terms with it, and then they need to realize that all of the policy of not stopping terrorism from originating from within Afghanistan, that is actually playing its role.
Right, and Farrukh, I want your take on that in terms of how the Afghan Taliban regime is actually looking at this decision of Pakistan.
Right. I think that they have always shown that they are the bull in China shop, and they will always keep on messing everything up. Repeatedly, they have invoked UN. They have used very strong language against Pakistan as well from time to time. But I wanted to actually disambiguate and clarify one thing that Faisal keeps on bringing up. He keeps on mentioning aliens. So immediately my mind goes to E.T. Go Home, right? But the point is that not all aliens are, being asked to go. Only illegal aliens are being asked, right? The legal aliens are, of course, they are allowed to stay as long as their papers or documents allow. And then, of course, naturally, you have to appreciate one fact, Sana, that this conflict has been going on. I'm talking about Afghanistan conflict and the instability in Afghanistan for longer than many countries' entire lifetime. And it has been long, right? Multiple decades, 40 years or more. And because of that, whosoever came here, there are people who have actually created an entire infrastructure. And eventually, because their lives actually and their countries belong to on the other side, they'll eventually be asked to go back. So in the end, no matter what Afghan Taliban say, always consider that they are going to be frenemies and they are going to be a hostile force most of the times. So you'll have to do what you have to do to ensure that your country is safe, that your country's economy is safe, that its citizens are safe, and that because of this inconvenient illegal arrangement through which so many people are within our country, more lives are not damaged or more worries are not created. So what is the best solution? Send them back to the place where they are supposed to be, so that Afghan Taliban, who keep on bragging about their economy getting better, them being able to actually manage the country and having brought back peace, that they can show to their own citizens that circumstances are now better, and then they can walk the talk.
Right. Thank you so much, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate. As always, that's all that we have time for. We'll now see you tomorrow.